Well, folks, thank you for joining us for another Rimshots with Sean. Listen, this guy, I tell you, I've been following him now for about a year. The one, the only Chiko Misomali you're in Edmonton?
I'm in Vancouver.
Vancouver, even better.
Yeah, it's a nice day.
so the first question I have to ask you, Chiko, are you ever in a bad mood, man?
I don't think so. There's way more stuff to be crazy about.
Well, you have some of the best posts. I mean, you're always smiling. You're always you post with your dog, the David Lee Roth, the dogs. Life seems to be good for you, my friend.
Yeah, man. Especially in this day and age, you can't be nothing but positive. You're not going to gain anything by going, oh man, I only did 12 shows last year or whatever. Like everyone's, same thing, right?
So how was your? I mean, I saw some of the stuff you guys wrote a bit, but I mean, how was your year last year in terms of playing?
I was expecting it to be pretty much a total write-off. So in my mind, I thought, well, you know what? We're probably not going to get a lot of shows, and that's okay. I'll do other things, get all my other stuff, get my, my side hustle band, get that project. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. get that under control, get our new album ready to go. And then we started getting shows, and I went to Ontario probably 3 times to play shows, and then we did the opening slots at the Buck Cherry thing. So I was just happy to just even play once or twice.
And you mentioned the side hustle thing. So I mean, that for me came out of being in a band with a singer who wanted to do some acoustic duo things, and I was like, well, I don't want to sit around and not get paid, so I kind of put it together. Is that pretty much what you did with that?
The weird thing is, in the Biff band with our old guitar player, we wanted to play a lot, and we used to rehearse in my house, like in the basement, like the whole Biff band rehearsed down there. And me and the old guitar player, Alley Cat, just started writing, and we're like, hey, maybe this stuff will be good for some new Biff, or maybe, something. And we started writing, and it got really heavy. It got chunky. It got kind of STP meets Seven Dust. And then we're like, hey, we're on to something, So it just kind of came along, and my old guitar player, he had a lot of stuff going on, new wife and kids, and I just kept the ball rolling and got a bunch of guys in the city that I really wanted to play with, and we just started tracking. And the new album, our album's going to be out this summer.
That would be your Stars Unhinged project?
That'll be Stars Unhinged.
Right, which I took a look at. It looks very, very cool. So that's kind of when Biff's not going, you kind of flip over into that, or you fit it in the cracks, or how do you do it?
Yes, Biff's been so supportive of the Stars stuff. Like every time I do something, like we recorded all of my plays, so I've been sending her stuff. Hey, what do you think of this? Oh my God, that's so great. You know what? You need just a bit of air in this spot right somewhere. You need some air. And I just can bounce ideas, and she's really supportive of that project, and she really digs the song. So it's kind of cool.
So I started following you, like I said, about a year ago, and I would show some of my friends, my drummer friends, your posts, and who is this guy? Like, and it's like he came out of nowhere. What's your background for those folks that don't know about you?
For folks that don't know anything about me, is Biff and I were in a band together in 1992, and the band was called Dying to Be Violent, and we did an EP, we did some shows. Shortly after, when Biff signed a deal, some of the songs that we had written in Dying to Be Violent, I still love that name.
Great name.
Yeah. And some of those tracks ended up on the first Biff album. And so Biff and I have been friends for 31 years, I guess.
Wow.
Pretty amazing considering I'm only 32.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I'm saying?
I do, brother. I do.
And just I've just been in the scene. I was in the I never really played in the cover tune scene in Vancouver. I played in a lot of original bands and playing with Biff back then. And I contracted out anywhere. Network Records, I was a drum consultant for Avril Lavigne on her first album. Just anything I could do, I was just always kind of there.
Nice. So what's your scene like out there in Vancouver? I was out there. A good friend of mine here in Halifax moved out there a number of years ago. Used to work at Tom Lee Music. And he always told me about the scene. But what's your impression of the scene now, and I guess what it was maybe 20 years ago?
20 years ago, well, back in the day, it was insane. Like there was just so many cover places, the Metro and Club Soda and the Town Pump and all these wonderful places to play. And, when you live in the city that's maybe not always sunny, but it's hardly ever snowing,
Right.
there's mountains, there's beaches. Everybody wants to move here, which means everything that was a club or a bar or what have you, it's like, let's mow that down and put up condos,
Right.
So there's not really a lot of places. It's a shame, but there's not really a lot of places to really play or really go out to anymore.
So you mentioned the Buck Cherry show. So we had a band out here in Halifax that opened for them in I think 4 or 5 shows here.
Yep.
What was that like? I got to know Francis a little bit on Facebook. He's going to come on the show. Seems like a super cool guy. But what were those shows like for you guys?
It was actually amazing.
Yeah.
Just such good guys. I mean, I went to go see Buck Cherry on the old Motley Crue tour. I think it was
Nice.
Crew Fest or something, like a long time ago, and Buck was opening. So to actually go out and open 7 or 8 or 9 dates or whatever we did with them. First day going into Calgary, because we didn't get to start in Vancouver, my hometown. We
Right.
started the day after, of course, but we showed up. They were already there. We showed, kind of walked in through the backstage, and they were like, hey, how you doing? And we sat down, had dinner, and just super great guys, really pro. For me, when I thought Buck Cherry, I'm thinking, this is sleazy LA, just raunchy. I don't give a shit. We're going to do this, but oh my God, the band is just so tight and so solid and so perfect at everything they do. And Francis, just an amazing, amazing guy. All of them are great, but Francis and Kelly, the bass player, we all really latched onto him. He's just one of these guys you just want to hang out with him all the time. And just solid, and they've become good friends now, which is cool. Send messages, hey buddy, how's it going? And they're just really great guys.
Yeah, Francis really. I'm going to meet him soon, but he seems very down to earth. He's very much like you. He's very quick to get back to you. You don't wait weeks for a response, which I think is important, right? When you're networking out there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, definitely a bunch of solid guys there.
So all the stuff that you have done, you've got your other project, you got Biff. Do you still find time to maybe do session work? Are you doing anything like that, or is any of that in your thing right now?
I would have liked to do session work, but right now I've probably spent the last year doing all the drums for Stars Unhinged, but also tracking the new Biff album. So I've been kind of busy with the both of them at the same time,
Right on.
So.
Well, and I mean, a lot of people, I talk to a lot of drummers about this. Playing live versus playing in the studio is not the same.
Yeah.
It's not at all. I mean, you hear board mixes of yourself live, and it's like, oh, that's pretty good. You go in the studio, every wart and hangnail is right there to be heard.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
A lot of people they're not prepared for it when they first go in.
Yeah, definitely. I've always wanted to be. It's weird. I've kind of always wanted to be that one take sort of guy in the studio, but it's not like I don't prepare. It's not like I just go, oh, I'm going to, Alex Van Halen this in one take or anything. I will spend a week every single day. Send me the song and it's in my headphone. It's in my earbuds, doing the damn dishes. It's playing. Yeah. And I pretty much know exactly what I'm going to play on every single part when I go into the studio. So I really prepare.
Well, that's great. The last 2 tracks I played on, the guy that produced it was like, you're going to learn it in the studio. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound too great because you're burning up time, but you know what? It came together. But like you, I like to be prepared. I like to know if I'm doing a fill. I like to know if it's not going to work. I like to know that, you're not going to waste anybody's time. You don't ever want to be the weakest link when you're burning X amount of dollars an hour, right?
Exactly. And the tough part is that the studio was in my house. So it was always like, oh, yeah, I'll go track a bit. Oh, no, I'll track tomorrow. But I've really enjoyed getting to the other side of it, to producing on my side. Well, let's try that again. And, I'm a drummer. So I've always been that guy where the guitar player starts, weedly, hand on the string, stop
Yeah.
right now, dead. So that actually it just takes up so much time. People don't realize. I'll never cut up a producer ever again in my life.
Now that you're on the other side. Well,
hurting.
I had Barry Connors from Toronto and Daryl Miller. They were on the same talk, and it was hilarious. They were.
My God.
They hadn't actually talked to each other in 4 years. It was really cool. But I asked them, new way of recording, so i.e. Pro Tools versus back in the day. Do you have a preference? Do you like one over the other?
Well, when I record in Pro Tools or Logic, a lot of times I'm using a V kit these days.
Right.
But because I'm using a V kit, there's some things I can still fix, and it's still kind of cool. For me, it's not about I want the best performance ever. I do want it, but if something wasn't right, I'm willing to change it. I'm not attached to my drum tracks. It's just some guys, it's like, no, that's the way I want it, and that's the way it's got to be. I'm so not attached. What? You want to chop this out and you want to move this and move it to the second? Go ahead. I think I learned that from Vinnie Paul. Vinnie was the same way. Vinnie was like, oh, nah, man, I just want the best damn song. I don't care what we're going to do with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know when the whole lockdown out here was happening, I kind of would geek out at 12 o'clock on a Saturday night and listen to those isolated drum tracks, Bonham and Ian Pace. And, and I'm sitting there going, okay, if these guys frigged it up at like 4 minutes and 27 seconds, they went all the way to the beginning. And there's something to be said for, hey, I'll just snip that or move it around. You know what I mean? Some people would say it's lazy or cheating, but hey, if the technology's there, why not use it?
Why not use it? Like, one thing I do is, even though I record all my tracks with a V kit, I sample back real drums. I don't use Steven Slate or anything. I've actually got samples of acoustic Pearl maple shell 12, 16, 18, and that way we send it off to our guy Doug Fury to mix it, and he's just mixing a real live kit, which is exactly what Vin did. Like Vinny, he sampled. He went into the studio, played his kit every time, so many times, sampled his kit, triggers himself back. But Vinny will go in later and do all the cymbals separately because he wanted his clean,
the separation
of it. Yeah. Separation. Me, I'm like, in this day and age, everything sounds like, Shania Twain or Def Leppard. Put that kick in the snare this loud, and the other stuff is in there somewhere, right?
Well, and I remember reading, I think it was an interview with Frankie Benali a number of years ago where he recorded a Wasp album. He did all the drums on one take and all the cymbals and the hi-hats, and I'm going like, man, that would just be painful. Crazy, right? Would that be something that you would do?
But nope. No. Nope, not a chance. But I understand some of these guys, they want the separation but they mic every cymbal, every splash, every crash, every ride, everything has its own mic, and they blend that in. I'm just like, hey, as long as you can hear my China, I'm good.
Yeah, you're a China guy. I hear you, bro. And in the next segment, I want to geek out and get into gear and stuff because I've been trying to figure out what you've been playing. But when you're playing live, so with your project, Stars Unhinged, when you're playing with Biff, are you guys using tracks on stage? Is it totally live? How do you guys do it?
90% of the time, it's just totally live. There is 4 songs. It depends if they're in the set list. There will be about 3 or 4 songs where I run the tracks, and the track is just keys.
Okay.
Because, Spaceman without keys, we love it.
Yeah.
And Biff is good with no tracks. That's the thing. She's just like, nah, don't care what it's like on the album. Let's go out like a total, just a punk band and hit it. But, we want some big keys. We don't do, there's no percussion, there's no vocals, there's nothing. It's just the big keys, basically.
Very cool. And I memean, we're going to wrap this episode up here in a second, but talk about her for a second, because, I've watched her from afar for years. She really seems to have evolved. I mean, you do the whole evolving thing, and she started out as this, in my mind, she was kind of Canada's answer to Pink in terms of I'll grab you by the throat and punch you in the face. But she's really come along. Always been a great songwriter. Yeah. Always been a great performer. Talk about her a little bit, because I think sometimes she maybe doesn't get her due like she should.
Yeah, I think you're right, because she does so much. She's an activist. She stands up for everybody. She'll still punch you in the face.
Absolutely.
But she's just been like one of my absolute best friends for like almost 30 years. And she's always willing to help anybody. She takes on things. She wants you to be happy all the time. She really, it's not like she needs, I think she needs a comeback all the time. And we go, we got to do this so we got a big comeback. And to her, she's just happy. She goes, come back from what? I'm still doing exactly what I did, so you have to see the other perspective. She's just happy. She's just happy all the time. Nothing has really changed for her.
Well, I mean, and that's great because I mean, and to hear you talk about her, it's cool that because you talk to some people who play with people and it's kind of like, they've got a great rapport on stage, but it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with them when I'm off stage.
Yeah, exactly.
And I get the feeling that, hey, we get off this call and you go and give her a ring and say, let's go grab a coffee or whatever, which I think is very cool.
Yeah. And she used to live in Vancouver and she moved to Toronto about 3 years ago. And so the cool thing is if we have shows in Toronto, I will fly out to Toronto and I stay at her place.
Nice.
So we all just stay and we hang out and we're watching some, have you seen Ozark? And we watch TV and then we have shows coming up on the West Coast next week. And so she's coming. So she's staying with me and my wife here. Awesome. So we don't stay obviously we're in hotels when we're on the road. We're in somebody's city. Nah, man, it's slumber party.
That's fantastic. So you know what? We're going to wrap this segment. Okay. And what we're going to do in the next one, if you don't mind, is we're going to geek out. We're going to talk a little bit of gear, if that's cool.
Sounds good to me.